Hi, welcome to Path to Hollywood. My name is Tony, and today my guest, producer Lauren Bancroft. Am I spell it correctly? Perfect. All right. So the first question is, what inspired you to be a producer, like to work in the producer industry?
I actually kind of had a career before I decided to switch to production. So I worked in the information technology industry for about 14 years. So that's a long time. But through that, I kind of developed a skill set of being very organized, good communicating, troubleshooting, and problem solving. So I've always been interested in production, but when I decided to pivot to start producing or start pursuing production full time rather, I didn't even know what position I wanted to be in. And I kind of fell into producing because it really is more of a skill set. I explain it as more of it's a skill set, less of a job description. It's like, can you be organized? Can you communicate? Can you keep all your vendors straight? And are you good with money? Okay, great. Then, and can you solve problems? Then you'll be a good producer. I kind of fell into it. I started going to a hobbyist production group where it was just a bunch of comedians and improvisers who wanted to be making content and making sketches. So in that group, that's kind of where I learned to put my skills to use. And they said I was a producer, and I'm like, oh, okay, guess that's producing.
But what brought you exactly to the film industry? How was your first project?
Yeah, well, I grew up with a digital camera and making little videos, and I've always been interested in shooting, and for a while I wanted to be an actor or a comedian. But I used to shoot and edit my own little videos on what Windows Movie Maker or something, 20 plus years ago. So I've always had an interest in it, and when I was in high school I was very fortunate to attend a public school that had a $1.4 million TV studio on campus. So I took that course and it was amazing. I got to play with all of these really cool tools. I got some really wonderful mentorship from people who had worked in the industry. So that was kind of my first taste of this is fun and exciting. And it's if we're going live, we need to solve that problem, get it working, because we're going to be live broadcasting to the city soon. I think it's just the excitement and the collaboration of being on set and working with a team is something that always really drew me to production.
Can you share more your thoughts and memories about the studio at the primary school, right? Is that pretty typical things?
No, it was pretty special. I'm from Nashua, New Hampshire, so southern New Hampshire, about 45 minutes north of Boston. And my junior and senior year of high school, I got to take this course, and it was a relatively brand new facility and course that was offered. But essentially, my school district had invested a lot of money in trade programs, so they had a few multi-year courses around cosmetology, culinary, hospitality and tourism, TV production and broadcasting, and that's just a few of them. So I was very lucky that I was there at the time when, a year after the facility even opened. So I got to be one of the first groups of students to use all this brand new equipment, a control room that broadcast right to the city when we wanted it to. It was really, in hindsight, it was crazy, crazy cool that we got to play with so much of these toys, and it was a really functional TV studio. So it was very special. I'm very grateful that I got that opportunity.
And did you pay for study or not?
No, because it was when I was in high school. So it was just part of public school.
Wow.
So it really was a very, very special opportunity that me and my fellow students got. And we could also rent out equipment if we wanted to go on location for a shoot, or every Thanksgiving, my hometown did the Turkey Bowl, which is one high school versus another, Thanksgiving Day. And we used to load up a big trailer with a bunch of equipment, and we would do a live broadcast from the game. It's just really fun to be I'm 16, I don't know what I'm saying, but I'm on camera. I'm on camera doing a news report from the Turkey Bowl.
Yeah. So you got really long journey to be a producer and work in this industry for a high level project. So what inspired you to be a producer, like to keep moving forward?
I think maybe I'll talk about my favorite parts about being a producer, and that kind of is what drives me. So I love getting to create a work culture for my employees that is filled with respect and kindness and understanding and patience. The entertainment industry is notorious for having, like, you know, from the top down, right? It's like if the director or the producer is a monster, it's going to be a bad experience for everyone down the line. So I really look at my responsibility as a producer to be like, I have the power to create, and I have the access to create what could be a very positive work environment for people. You know, like a gaffer, he gets hired and he shows up, and the set that he's on is the set that he's on. He doesn't have any say on, like, the culture of it. I can be like, I don't hire assholes. Oh, can I swear?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Come on.
Like, I meant to check that. But I don't hire assholes. If I'm working with someone and they're yelling at anyone on my team, they are going to be gone. Like, I don't tolerate it. And I don't want to have to. And as a producer, I get to be the one to make those decisions. Like, I'm going to build as supportive a work environment for my team as I possibly can. So, I mean, I'm trying to fix things one job at a time, really, because, you know, like sexism and racism and, you know, misogyny and, you know, like homophobia, that's all prevalent in so many places, and I can decide that I'm not going to tolerate anything even close to that. So that's one driving force, because I want to be able to give that to people who come work for me, and I want people to be like, I want to be on Lauren's team. I want to be working with her on set, and I really mean it. You know, it's like I've had jobs in the industry and out of the industry where, in hindsight, it's like I was being really taken advantage of. I was being abused. I was being mistreated, and I didn't. It's not until, like, I have, like, the clarity of time, right, that I can look back and be like, wow, I never want to do that to anybody, and I never want my sets to be anything but respectful and kind.
So can you share with the process, how you, like, kick them up, the process of replacing? Because usually it's might be really talented golfer or really nice and amazing professional AC, but really extremely, like, bad character, really doing wrong thing.
I mean, I think there's definitely things that I can do before we, like, get to set, and, like, things are, you know, the shit's hitting the fan, so to speak. Like, you know, obviously I vet the team that I bring in, you know, so I make sure all my department heads, like, I check their references. Usually people I hire are referred by friends or, you know, collaborators who I know and trust. So I try to, you know, word of mouth is a really good way to make sure that people I'm bringing on are not jerks. And then I make it clear to them, to my department heads, that I do not tolerate. And they're like, yeah, great, sounds good. Because it means that the work environment's good for them too, right? So if they're thinking about bringing on a member of their team that maybe they wouldn't want to vouch for with me or with anyone, then maybe they're going to think twice about it. So I try to make sure that everyone knows that is my intention and that's my plan. And, you know, sometimes it does come down to, oh no, we're rolling, we're like an hour away from rolling on day one, and I have to fire someone. And that's happened, and it's been very, very uncomfortable. It's not a fun thing, but if you know that we can't move forward, it's like, do my employees, does my crew feel like they're in an unsafe environment because of this person? Even, like, emotionally and mentally unsafe. Like, if they're a tyrant, then, like, they're making it terrible for everybody, so they should go. What would be worse? To have to deal with some budget overages and some having to work a little bit late, or making everyone on that set miserable by not making that stronger decision to say, you need to leave. I guess I gave a lot of details.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
So let's talk about actually behind the schedule, how you usually figure out and why it usually happen.
To develop the schedule for a shoot. Well, if there's budget, you hire an amazing first AD to do the breakdown in the schedule for the project, whatever it is, even if it's like a 2-day shoot, versus, you know, like a feature. Like to have someone who knows, someone like a great first AD who knows how long things take, who knows generally how long each department needs for prep, or for, you know, how long someone's going to take in the makeup chair, for example. Like if you have someone who, like, their whole job is the timing and the schedule of things, and to like maximize everyone's time, that's the best thing to do, is just have a really, really good first AD. And then there have definitely been situations where I can't afford a first AD. So I'm producing and I'm the one making the schedule. There was actually one job in particular a few years ago, and it was a bigger one, like at the time the biggest job that I had done. And we had 17 sketches to shoot in 17 days at 14 locations. So I had to, because we didn't have a first AD, so I was like, okay, so we have these many scripted locations. Okay, great. So what locations can we find where we can like double or triple up? So we can do, in one day, we could do 3 scenes from 3 of the different sketches, you know, because they're not all just like one location sketches. Some of them are like montages, some of them are like more trailers, some are like parodies. But we had all of these locations, and I'm like trying to like make them make sense. I had like note cards, like colored note cards on a table, and I'm like, here, 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 here. And I'm like, does this look like 17 full days at 14 different locations? And it's like, yeah, somehow we did it without a first AD. We also didn't have a production designer, and we didn't have wardrobe, and we didn't have hair and makeup. It's crazy. When you look at, like, in hindsight, that's another, like, miracle project where it's like, how did we even come out the other side of that? But we did. But yeah, it's really just like looking at what does the script call for? How long roughly do you think it's going to take? And of course, like as a director, I'm sure you know that like a director's creative vision can add time to like a page of a script, you know, depending on what they want to do. Are they crazy, fancy like camera moves? Are they the kind of director who wants to do, you know, 50 takes or whatever? So the director definitely plays in the shot list, definitely plays into the timing, which is also something that you need to consider with how long things take. But if you could be like kind of straightforward, like, you know, like a general setup, not doing a crazy amount of takes, just like, you know, aiming for not an insane day. I also always try to aim for like 10-hour days. 10-hour shoot days. Not always possible, but sometimes. So yeah, the schedule is really just like looking what the script calls for, roughly how long do you think it would take to get through. Because also like a director who shows up very prepared and knows exactly the shot that he wants for each line, like that can really, it's like, well, you don't have a lot of coverage then, right? So that can really save you time. So it really, like, as a producer, like having a director who's like, I know, boom, here we go. We're doing it. That really helps, I think, when it comes to scheduling. I mean, once the schedule is done, I mean, then it's like, okay, well, we know what we're doing on what day. Okay, well, where are we shooting each of those things? Okay, well, now we need to find our locations, right? So we need to find our locations, get everyone's buy-in. We need to, like, the director for creative. Is this where you see this scene playing out? Can this space physically work for the blocking that you're envisioning in camera? Okay, well, we also need the DP, this art cinematographer, to be there to be like, logistically, could this work? Is there enough, like, is the electricity, like, is the wattage enough? Are we, like, is there access to outside if we wanted to put a light outside the window? It's like, so they need to be there. Like, obviously, gaffer, key grip, like, we need to do, like, full scouts for, like tech scouts with our whole team to make sure that everyone knows the plan. Everyone can voice any concerns, you know, before we're on the day. And people are like, this is not possible. This is not going to work, you know. You know, it's like, can we turn the, do you have control of the HVAC system? Like, can we turn the AC off if it's too loud for sound? Like there are definitely like a lot of things that you need to think about. But once the schedule is done, I mean, at what point is casting already done? Casting's also another thing. But like, as the producer, it's like, your job is but you're the one who moves the project forward in pretty much all ways. So once you have once you're like, get the, like, okay, the next milestone, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? And usually, as a producer, I start with, okay, well, what's our shoot date? And then we need to back into that. So if we're shooting, you know, I've got a short film shoot coming up in December. If we're shooting December 13th through the 15th, then, okay, well, the 2 weeks before, we're going to need to do a tech scout with our whole team. You know, we're going to need to have our casting locked. We're going to need to have rehearsals scheduled with our actors. We need to do fittings with those actors for wardrobe. It's just like there's a whole bunch of stuff that needs to happen. Like, you know, 2 weeks before that, I'm going to be putting in a Film LA permit. So we need to have all of our locations locked, right? So it's just like backing into, you know, when does the audition process and like the tape submission process need to be for us to be considering and making those final casting decisions. Final casting decisions that other departments need to know because they need to know the measurements, you know, and they need to know who they're shopping for. So it's really, as a producer at my level, which is often, I'm often the producer, line producer, production manager, location scout, and location manager, like minimum of those. I've also had shoots where I'm like, you know, I do a crock pot full of like barbecue pulled pork for lunch because we like don't have any money to be ordering catering for people. So it's like I've also been crafty and like been catering on the same sets that I'm like the one in charge of, you know. But that's fine. I think it's also important to me that like I don't have an ego. Like I'll do whatever needs to happen to make the project work.
You probably have a strong network with other producers. Do you have a like a blacklist or like the people who don't appear on the set or who really like drunk or something?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's definitely do not hire again lists that I have. I mean, I think pretty much all producers have lists. They have like, you know, lists of people for different roles. Lists of people in different places, because like I've shot, you know, in San Francisco a bunch, I've shot in Toronto, like I've shot in, you know, Pittsburgh, like I've shot all over, and because of those experiences I know good or bad people in those places. So I definitely try to keep note of who I work with, would I work with them again? If I wouldn't, why would I not work with them again? You know, were they just cranky, or did they actively try to harm the shoot? Were they problematic for another reason? So yeah, it's as a producer, there are definitely like we're always keeping track. We're always keeping track of like never again. I'm not gonna be hiring you again. But yeah, that's definitely something true. But I actually don't have a huge network of producers, and it makes me very sad. And I think that's probably because at this level, I'm often the only producer on a project. I'm the only producer wearing all of those hats. So because each project I'm the only one, it's very hard for me to find the other producers, to work with them so that we like, hey, I'm cool, you're cool, let's be friends and collaborators. But if I'm not working with them on any project, it's like hard to like find them. Without having to go above and beyond and put in the effort, which I'm just so busy. But I'm also not in the Producers Guild of America just yet.
Yeah, that was the next question. Yeah.
It's very important to me. It's on my list. Unfortunately, the way they do membership is there have to be specific qualifying credits. So unfortunately, I do not have enough qualifying credits at this time to apply.
So where's the terms?
All right. Here we go. To apply?
Right.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So if you're applying to be a feature film producer, you need to have produced 2 feature films in the last 7 years that have either gotten major distribution, had at least a 2-week theatrical run in 2 cities that have at least a population of 1 million people, or have been distributed on like a standard, like one of the major streaming services. So that's a feature film producer. If you're a short film producer, you need to have produced 5 short films in the last 5 years that have either gotten distribution through a major network or streamer, or have gotten into a specific list of film festivals and not only gotten in, but won essentially Best of the Fest. Or short film that's won an Oscar. And then those are qualifying. I think the Oscar one will actually like just kind of get you in. But it's like there are specific, and then there's also TV is a whole other thing, but that's not my world yet. So I don't really remember. I can't rattle those off. And there's also new media, I believe, or like interactive type stuff. So the two ways that I could possibly get in would be short films or feature films. I actually did produce my first feature film earlier this year, and I just picture locked a feature documentary. So I'm coming for it. I'm very close. I just really just need to secure distribution, qualifying distribution for both of those features, and then I'll be able to apply.
Yoo-hoo. So what kind of benefits you can get when you already be a part of the union?
Yeah. So it's not a union; it's a guild.
A guild, right?
But there is a difference because unions, they essentially are the ones who are negotiating for their members for like rates or like terms of work or contracts, etc. But as the Producers Guild, it was I think it was like Congress or the Supreme Court or something years ago ruled that the Producers Guild could not be a union because they were the bosses that were the ones doing the negotiating. So like we didn't need collective bargaining. The producers, they're the ones being negotiated with. They're not the ones that are negotiating, So it's a guild, not a union, that's specific. But one of the things that as someone who doesn't have a network of producers, one of the things that I'm most excited about once I join is to have that community, to be like going to these events, to be talking to other people who are maybe at my level or a little above, people that I can hopefully lean on. They're also big into like mentorship programs. Like if you join the PGA and you say you want a mentor, they will pair you with someone who's, a few steps above you to be, a bit of a guide. And I would just love that. They're also big in education, and I hear they have great parties. So
a quick question: where's the PGA?
The Producers Guild of America.
Okay. It's like.
Yeah.
I got it.
It's also the Professional Golfers Association, but not that one, the producer one.
So what is the best genre right now for the audience, and why you prefer specific projects like horror or not like drama or like fantasy, whatever?
Yeah, so it depends. The best as a viewer, not everybody likes horror. I think horror is objectively very profitable right now, because in the horror genre you don't need big names. Like you could make a very, very low budget horror movie with complete no name actors, and because horror fans show up, because they're in the community and because they're like keeping tabs on the movies coming out, they show up to the box office. And when a movie comes out on physical media, I know so many like friends of mine who are big horror fans own so much physical media because they buy the DVD, they buy the Blu-ray, right, of the movies that they like when they come out. So they're not only going to the box office, they're going to the theater, they're also supporting it going forward by buying physical media. So like they are supportive fans and they will show up. So if you make a low budget movie, chances are you could sell it and it will be profitable, provided it's made well, obviously. But horror also, I feel like, is pretty widely regarded as a genre that has a strong commentary, like social commentary, right? So, I produced a short film last year. It was a body horror. Like body horror is that's like another subset under horror, right? That's kind of not aggressive, but like it's deep horror, like body stuff and like weird and like blood and gory. But I produced a short film called Mosquito Lady from writer-director Christine Jaralaga, and it was, it had like deep commentary on abortion and the woman's right to choose. It was about a 14-year-old American girl who got pregnant and was hiding her pregnancy from her parents, and she went to a manananggal, which is a creature from Filipino folklore, for an abortion. So she went to like a vampiric creature from folklore to get an abortion because she couldn't get one. She, as a 14-year-old, she's like, I can't have to notify my parents. I can't let them know this about me. So, but it's body horror, and it's a woman's right to choose, and it's about abortion. So it's very easy to see social commentary in horror. So if you're also looking to like make change or like say something about like a larger societal issue, I think horror is like it's a really good place to say that, because it's been saying it for years, for decades, horror. So.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Also, dramas are like, you need like big names.
Right.
You need big, like I'm not doing any dramas. They're boring to me. I like comedy. I like dark comedy. I like something that's going to keep me guessing. And maybe that comes from like, I don't know, I'm always trying to like, when I'm watching stand-up, I'm always trying to like guess where the punchline's going, guess the next part of the joke, guess the next part of the setup. And when I can't guess it, or I guess it and I get it wrong, that's what excites me. I'm like, oh, I was wrong. I did not know where this was going. And that can be in a lot of different genres, but drama, it's like.
This is the reason why people come into the theater like, oh, I thought it was like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
It's really great. So I don't know, can I share that, can I say that I kind of participate your project like Soul Trader, right?
The Soul Trader, yes.
Soul Trader.
Yes.
And I really surprised that it was a short movie project, right?
Yes. Yeah,
and
it's a short film proof of concept.
I've been there as a like background artist or something, like just one day on my
yes. Oh my goodness, you were
there. Yeah, my friend.
Oh my god.
My friend Gabriela asked me, hey, can you just join this project for last month? I'm like, yeah, it's interesting. Why not?
Gabriela's amazing.
Yeah, exactly.
She was great.
And she when I come for the set, when I see everything, I'm like, whoa, it's actually like a future project, really high level, like 2 camera sets,
Thank
right?
You, yeah.
And everything high level. The agreements with the artist. They were like take a picture with the agreement.
Production legal, baby, important
and
stuff.
And also the question. My question is really important for a lot of like indie projects. I've seen kind of like a shoes or something. How you like find? The question is how to find kind of even tiny sponsors, investors for indie project, and what's the profit for them?
Sure. So you mean in the Soul Trader example, Mata Shoes was a designer shoe brand that supported us by donating shoes to us because we were shooting this party scene in this big fancy Brentwood mansion, right? So we wanted people who were our party goers to at least look like they were wearing fancy stuff, but also we didn't have the budget to be able to dress them fully. So that actually came from our executive producer in Star, Shauna Grace. She had a friend of a friend who had worked in high fashion and reached out and essentially just said, hey, we're doing a short film. Would you be willing to donate some shoes? And they're like, sure. And they sent, I would say probably like 3 dozen, if not more, pairs of shoes.
It was a lot, yeah.
Yeah, it was just like boxes and like a wagon full of boxes of shoes. So that in that case, that essentially we didn't make any money from that didn't help with the budget any more than we didn't have to buy shoes for our extras to make it look like they fit into this fancy party, right? So that came through, so many things just come through connections, right? Where it's like thinking about who is in your circle and who might be in their circle, and would your associate be willing to call in a favor for you, be open to calling in a favor for you. And that's another reason to just be nice. Be nice to people. If you're rude to people, they're not going to want to help you. And you need a lot of help in this industry. At every stage, you need a ton of help. So yeah, that specific example was definitely, it was definitely funny. It's just like, okay, great, we have these shoes. Sweet. But yeah, I think initially, like look in your circles and see who could possibly be willing to help you. And then from there, don't be afraid to just cold email some companies and just, if you don't ask, then you're never gonna know. But I ask for the moon. I absolutely all the time. I'm just like asking, especially vendors, like some like gear vendors. I feel like I produced a short film like last fall or something, and it was just like a 1-day shoot, super, super chill, very small team, and we got a camera rental kit from Panavision.
Wow.
For a very, very nice camera with a bunch of cases. It wasn't just a camera. It was like lenses and like other things. For a 1-day shoot over a weekend for $400.
Wow.
$400. Panavision was like, I'm like, we have no money. And they're like, but how much money do you have? And I said, I could do 400. And they're like, sounds good. Because all they cared about, I assume, was they needed to cover the pay for the camera tech who's going to be there for the prep, right? So as long as it wasn't costing them any money to let us use it, I had the insurance, I had everything, everything was fine. Everything was above board. But that camera package would have just been sitting on the shelf over the weekend, not making $400, So it's like, if you don't ask for the moon, if you don't like, just say what you have. If you don't have anything, say what you do have, or what you would be willing to do. For like, it's like equipment rental places don't really care about like, they already get shouted out in the credit. So it's like, it's not a big deal. Like a social media post for your like 100 followers, like isn't really going to move the needle. But still it's like these vendors specifically, like if they can say yes to a small project, next time I need a camera rental, I'm going to go back to Panavision because I'm going to want to pay them back. I keep track of my favors, I know who I owe and I know who owes me. So when it's time to like, when I do get these larger projects, these larger like multiple week, projects, I can go back to these vendors who have supported me when I didn't have any money and give them the larger paying jobs. And that's what I want to do. It's like all like the circle of life, right? It's all like very cyclical. So the people who help me, I want to be able to pay them back. I do keep that in mind.
Thank you. Really helpful answers. So I just curious how to fundraise the money for the projects. I mean, especially for the short movies. How hard is that?
Yeah.
And and if you can share how you do that.
Sure. I mean, there are options out there. I mean, it could be self-funded, the easiest option, right? Someone involved in the project has the money and is able to write a check, is able to cover everything. That's the easiest option. And even if it's not you, like in the Soul Trader example, our lead and EP, executive producer, Shauna Grace, she funded the whole, that's why she was the executive producer. She funded the whole project, which is, amazing. It was such a gift to have someone so invested in the project. Because like there were things where it's like, oh, well, speed bump, we have an overage. Or, oh, Film LA says we need to add a fire marshal for the shoot. Like, oh, darn. But it's like these things, like, as they came up with an executive producer or a financier who was maybe more strict or like less in it for the creative journey, they could have said no. They could have been like, no, you can't have any more money. Or if there was no more money, it's like, well, then what do you do? I mean, then you're opening a credit card with 0% APR and hoping for the best. I mean, it really depends on, every situation is different, but I think a self-funded project is, the least amount of work. Where it's like, you don't have to ask anybody for money. If there's someone who has money, great. And then there's obviously crowdfunding, which is, a game that we all are very familiar with. Like standard online social media type fundraising, with perks, and some people even like offer to like give away like producer credits for a donation of a certain amount. That is absolutely a full-time job. That is, if you are trying to raise an amount of money, let's just say $30,000, like it is going to be.
For how many months or years you have to spend, like?
I mean, honestly, like.
If you really trying to invest.
I mean, it really depends. Like a lot of campaigns are like 30 days, like a 30-day online campaign where it's like you make the most of your money in the first few days and you make the second most of your money in the last few days, right? Because in between, I feel like people kind of tune it out. But it's like you see, oh, a new campaign, we're raising the money, we're seeing, and that like people are like, oh, I'll support this. And then weeks later, it's like, okay, please, we're desperate. We need to make this. If we don't hit this limit, we don't get any of the funds that we've raised. We don't get the, like there are some crowdfunding campaigns or crowdfunding platforms rather that are, you have to hit a minimum. And if you don't hit that minimum, you don't get any of the money. But it's a full-time job and it takes creativity and, it takes ideally like you're someone who already has a community or a following that you could tap into. But that is definitely like, it's not always a sure thing. and it takes a huge amount of commitment to be putting out content that people are engaging with, and not just like a like or a comment, but like a share, but a contribution, you know. Yeah, and I think it's, yeah, so there's that. There's also grants. There's definitely short film grants. The shoot that I mentioned I'm doing in December, it's a short film called Loco, from writer-director Eddie Mujica, who's wonderful. I love this project. I've been attached to it for like 2 years now, and we're finally making it. But last year we won the grand prize for the Shore Scripts Short Film Fund. $15,000.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which is not nothing. $15,000, like, because and Eddie had submitted his project, did the whole grant application, and it can take months to hear back about grants, because their acceptance window can be like, submission window can be like most of a year, and then they have like a few months of like deciding, and then they announce who wins. But there are significant grants out there, especially for like a short film. I mean, we still have a lot more to find for that specific project, but I mean, like 15,000, like there are $20,000 grants. There are $50,000 grants.
How grants usually works for the film industry?
So at like the short film level, because that's all I can speak to. I've never used grants for features, but it's really just like a lot of them. Some of them are like specific, like new filmmakers. They want someone who's not too experienced. They want to help out, someone who's up and coming, but doesn't have too many credits under their belt, right? There are some that are specifically horror, specifically filmmakers or writers of color they're looking to support. It's like there is money and there is support for specific niches. So you could do a search for like just general short film grants, but also don't be afraid to be like, what am I, like look at yourself and be like, how do I stand out? What makes me special? Like, are you neurodivergent? Do you have a disability? Are you a member of the queer community? Are you a person of color? Like, there are definitely like things that could set you aside, and not just for those general ones, but for like, there could be like specifically, like queer Black filmmaker grants that they're looking to support someone exactly like you. So it's really like, don't just stick to like the big ones. Don't be like, oh, I'm going to submit for a Sundance grant, or like I'm going to go to like one of the big ones. It's like there are a lot of people, a lot of organizations who want to support people. So just see like who's supporting who and how do you fit into that. But I would say if you're going the grant route, you really do need to plan, because it's not a fast process. The grant applications themselves can be very tedious and long. And then the notification process, like, I have several friends who have short films that they submitted to the Monkey Paw Production, so Jordan Peele's production company's No Drama grant. It's a short film development grant. And they submitted in, I think, end of January, and they're not going to announce until end of November. Like, they got thousands and thousands of submissions. So, like, I understand it's going to take them a long time to get through that. But, if any of those projects were, like, holding off, waiting to hear back if they got that grant, like, that could take a whole year from a project,
How to find all of those grants? Is there any, like, platform, or you have to research a little bit here, a little bit there, like, by yourself?
You gotta Google. Do a lot of Googling. There might be lists. I don't have a specific one to point anyone to. But another option is fiscal sponsorship as far as raising funds. Are you familiar with fiscal sponsorship? Okay, great.
Please share.
Yeah, it's essentially these organizations. They're nonprofits. Like Film Independent is one. So you could submit your project, another big long application. Submit your project to Film Independent. So they like review everything, and if they approve you for fiscal sponsorship, then any contributions that our short film gets can be written off on taxes. So in theory, what a great situation would be is I apply for fiscal sponsorship for a project, it gets approved, and then I can go to potential executive producers and say, hey, we're trying to raise money for this great project, this is the filmmaker, this is me and my deal, like, this is what we're working on, this is when we're going to shoot, we're going to be in this festival, we're going to go to this, it's going to get distribution, it's going to be great, we're thinking about this big actor. Could you kick in $10,000? Also, it's tax deductible. So they get to write it off on their taxes. So fiscal sponsorship is a little bit of an extra motivator for people to be willing to, because if you just contribute to like an Indiegogo campaign that doesn't have fiscal sponsorship, you can't write that off. But if you need to like lower your tax bill, for example, like if you are someone who can just write a check for 10 or 20K to a filmmaker, then maybe you need some help to like get rid of some of your money so that it's not all going to get taxed at the end of the year, right? So that's something that is definitely a path. I know a lot of filmmakers do it. Some filmmakers do it for feature films.
Path to Hollywood.
Path to Hollywood. There you
go. Yeah, sorry. So another question is, can you explain maybe like in few words the structure of the producers? You mentioned that executive and what is their responsibilities?
Yeah, so there are a ton of producers. There really are, and there's actually a lot of conversations going around about like the oversaturation and kind of like diluting the term producer and like kind of taking away some of like the meaning of it. But the executive producer, I mean, we've all seen executive producers from executive producer Steven Spielberg. Like we all see that, and that could be either money, that could be like lending a name to a project. You know, it's like, oh well, Steven Spielberg clearly believes in this project. Like, okay, yeah, like okay, sure. We know that in theory, audiences know that means that it's a specific quality, right? Like if it's good enough for him, great. So executive producers can be, you know, the money, the name that's loaned. There's the producer. Again, it's like that there should be a different name. I call the main producer the producer. Or the business producer. But when I say producer, I'm talking about like the one who finds the IP, finds the script, the one who controls the rights to the script, the one who opens the LLC, the one who finds the director, the one who gets all of the legal paperwork together, the one who then goes and tries to find money, finds that money, the one who handles negotiations, the one who handles negotiating with all of the unions, the one who's working with a line producer to make the budget, the one who's working with, you know, who finds a first AD to maybe make a schedule. A lot of line producers, in my experience, do a schedule and a breakdown for you, which is great. And then a full budget, because they can't do the budget without the schedule and the breakdown. But yeah, so essentially it's like, you know, that business producer, that producer.
Like general producer.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
Lead producer, main producer, key producer. Like there's a lot of like, I've seen a lot of terms be thrown around. Like the producer community is talking about something needs to change because, you know, see a lot of like actors right now they're acting and producing. Okay, well, are they producing? What are they doing? Are they doing the business legal legwork? Are they going to be on this project for years after they're done shooting? Are they going to be the ones dealing with, you know, with profit sharing for 20 years, 30 years, the rest of the life of this project? Probably not. So there's definitely been a big pushback on when an actor asks for a producer credit, don't just give it to them unless they're ready to show up every day to do the work and not just be there, not just to be like, have some creative control, you know. It's like, yeah, you just don't want to like dilute that producer role. But the producers, like, you know, they're the producer, they're the ones who are like looking like at tax incentives and like, you know, tax rebates and refunds. Like what state can we go in to get the most bang for our buck, right? What country can we go shoot in? Where will the US dollar go further? Who knows? But like these are all things that the producer is thinking about. Essentially, they're the ones who control the rights to the script. They're the boss, the producer. producer, the business producer. And then I mentioned a line producer. Line producer is a non-creative producer. They're the ones who are responsible for making and maintaining the budget, for the logistics of the set. So I don't know if this is right, but I think of them as like the top of below the line. They're like the top of production. And they're definitely like the top of the production office. So they're more like logistics, they're more budgets, they're not weighing in on creative decisions for the project, right? And then there's, you know, a co-producer. Co-producer credit can be given to anyone who really does anything to help with the project. It can be like, you know, like connection to like an act, like an introduction. If you make an introduction to someone, send a script to someone, like, okay, here's a co-producer credit. And that doesn't mean like, you know, points on the back end or anything. It can just be like, hey, thanks for that favor. Hey, thanks for helping us in that way. You know, maybe someone like had a hookup to a great location or like a good gear hookup. So co-producer, it's definitely like a lesser producer credit.
At the credits might be a list of co-producers, right?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Or like, yeah, executive producer, co-executive producer, like co-EP, like co-producer. It's definitely like, I mean, I hope there are no co-producers watching who are like, fuck her. But that's my understanding, and that's in my experience. It's like more of a thank you. But I think the bar for a co-producer is just, it's like, did you do anything to help the project? Okay, here you go. Associate producer. I mean, someone once told me that an associate producer and a PA, the only difference is the order of the initials, like an AP or a PA.
Oh, I see.
So
Almost the same thing? Or?
Yeah, it's really just like you do whatever you need to do, and you're like, you may be spread very thin, you may be like, you know, taking out the trash, you may be like doing PA stuff. And then there's like an assistant producer. I think it's more like the assistant to the producer to invoke the office. But yeah, there are so many different types of producers, and there's like, you know, development only producers who all they do is work with the writers in the script. There are only post producers, and their whole job is just to oversee the post process. You know, there's film festival producers and consultants, and it's really like at every, like, casting producers. Like, there's just casting producers. So it's really, I think that the term producer is really like, I mentioned it's a skill set, right? At the top of the interview. It's like, I don't think you should be wearing a producer hat unless you are problem solver, good communicator, organized, and ideally respectful and a good person.